Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you happen to be new here, my name is Jess. As you guys can tell from the title of today's video, I'm going to be talking to you guys about my tips and tricks essentially on how I get out of reading slumps, as well as I wanted to tie this into a mental health chat today. I wanted to talk also about how to get out of life slumps in general. So what I'm going to be doing in this video is going over common reading slump habits that I have, things that get me into reading slumps and how that I'm able to get out of them, as well as things that get me into life slumps and how I'm able to get out of those as well, because I feel like we often focus on reading slumps and how we're not feeling great and how we're not really feeling like reading, but what tends to happen is when we're feeling like that, we don't really want to do much of anything. So I wanted to talk about ways about how to get out of life slumps in general and how that is beneficial to getting out of reading slumps at the same time, because like I said, I feel like one does often coincide with the other. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on this video, but if you guys do like this or you do find it helpful, please give it a thumbs up and think about subscribing. But yeah, let's go ahead and just get started. So the first tip I have here is if you are in a reading slump, do not force yourself to read. And people often ask me how I'm able to get out of them, and I honestly, when I start feeling like a slump is coming on and I'm feeling like I'm not enjoying the things that I'm reading, or I'm not really, wanting to keep reading even if I am technically still enjoying something, what I'll do is just take time away from that thing. I will just set the book down. I will take time, because what tends to happen is if you force yourself to keep reading when you're not really feeling up to it, it's going to make everything that you're reading seem less than it actually is. And as somebody who does try to critique books and review books, I need to make sure that I'm going into them with a good mindset, and that's a good tip to have if you are a reviewer. You don't want to be reviewing things in a negative headspace. I see a lot of reviews where people are like, well, I was having an off month, so maybe that's why I didn't like the book. I think it's important to take a step back and kind of evaluate and spend time with yourself away from the thing that is not bringing you so much joy, so that when you go back to reviewing it, or you keep reading, you'll be in a better mindset for that. And when it comes to life in general and not really wanting to do things, it's okay to take some space when it comes to just life in general. If you're feeling bogged down, if you're feeling like you're not enjoying the things that you normally enjoy, if you don't really have the motivation to do things, it's okay to take space. It's okay to not really interact with people. Don't necessarily just cut yourself off completely, but it is okay to take time for yourself and just step back from life in general. I think it is incredibly important. You guys have seen me take mental health weeks on my channel before. Like when I've moved, I have taken mental health weeks. When my friend passed away, to just take time, kind of evaluate your life and kind of where you want it to go, how you're feeling, really tune into how you're feeling, and just take time to yourself. Now, one of the other best tips that I have is to read something fluffy. If you're not really liking the things that you're reading, do like a palette cleanser. Like recently I read, I think like 9 comic books, and it really got me in the mood to want to read something bigger. It's okay to maybe step out of the genre that you're normally used to. Like I tend to read science fiction or fantasy, but if I'm feeling kind of down, I will read some contemporary, something a little bit lighter, maybe something funny. I think it's important to occasionally read something different than what you're used to reading, or something that doesn't necessarily have a lot of substance, like a guilty pleasure read that you have, anything like that. I think it's important to do things like that because it kind of resets your mind frame and it kind of cleans all of the grub out of it at the same time. Now, if you're feeling down, one of the other tips that I have is to watch something funny, like whether that be a stand-up comedy that you really like, maybe listen to a funny podcast that you really like. One of my favorites is Mysterious Universe. If you guys haven't seen that or haven't heard of that, you guys definitely need to check it out. It's hilarious. But watch something funny, or maybe even something comfortable. Like if your favorite movies are Disney movies and those always make you feel better, watch something that's going to bring joy into your life, whether that be laughter or emotion, whatever it may be. Try to watch or listen to something like that. Now, the third tip I have to getting through a reading slump is to try a buddy read with somebody that you care about, with a book that you're genuinely interested in. It will go so far. If you are reading with somebody that you like, somebody that you have a good rapport with, somebody that you can really talk to and be honest with, who at the same time you can kind of talk to how you're feeling about your reading slump, and you're reading a book that you're interested in, like maybe a book that has been high on your TBR for a while, a book that's really hyped that you've been wanting to read, I think that goes a long way to getting somebody out of a reading slump. Being excited to read a book that you're excited about with somebody that you genuinely care about, I think is probably high, very, very high on my list of things that I do when I am in a reading slump. Now, going back to ways to help with a mental health slump, try to spend a day with somebody that you care about. Today I'm actually going out with my friend Morgan because I was having a good mental health month, and then I started noticing I was feeling a little bit down, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go hang out with somebody that I haven't seen in a while. So we're actually going to edit together today because we both film YouTube videos, obviously. I will actually list her YouTube channel down below. But it's nice to just be in a room with someone that you care about and just not feel like you have to perform or do anything, and it can be a very laid back kind of day. I know we're gonna go get coffee and we're gonna go to the park and just hang out and just plan something like that, and it's really, really helpful to kind of get out of your mind and make sure it's like a low pressure thing. Like make sure you're not having to go above and beyond to entertain somebody. Like that's why I like Morgan, because we can just kind of hang out and enjoy our time together and not have to like stress about it. Now, the next thing that I do if I'm in a reading slump is to make sure that I'm reading in the place that I am most comfortable. I don't read in bed or anything like that. I will read in my living room, however, but my number one favorite place to read is actually at work. I do work at a wonderful enough place that I can read while I am on the job, and I cannot express to you how wonderful that of a blessing that is in my life. My favorite place to read is at work. I love standing while I'm reading. I also like to cuddle up on my couch and read with like the TV on, but I try to make my reading experience as comfortable as possible, and I like to set time aside to read, kind of make it a priority if I'm having a reading slump, if I'm feeling up to it. Like I said, don't stress yourself out about it, but that is a very important tip that I have for you guys, is just to be comfortable when you're reading. Don't feel like you need to rush. Don't feel like it needs to be like you need to read so much at a time. Just make sure you are the most comfortable that you can possibly be. And the next thing I have when it comes to getting out of a life slump is actually getting some sun. Now, I wear sunscreen constantly. I'm constantly covered in sunscreen because not only do I have tattoos, but I also just want to make sure that that my skin is protected and that I am okay. But getting out, especially right now when the sun is out, or even just getting out, even in the wintertime, the sun is obviously still out in the wintertime. I think getting out and getting some sun on your skin just helps you feel so much better. Like we all kind of feel it when the weather starts changing back into summertime, because here in the US we did just get over winter. I think the second the weather changed, I started feeling so much better. Seasonal depression is definitely something that a lot of people struggle with. So if you happen to be one of those people, I'm telling you now, go for a bike ride, go for a short walk, just whatever you need to do to get out of the house. Like maybe go to your favorite bookstore, but whatever you do, just make sure you're not kind of holding yourself off in your house. Unless that's something that you desperately need, I would definitely recommend going out and getting some sun. And the next thing that I like to do when I'm in a reading slump is actually revisiting an old favorite. I'll reread Harry Potter, I'll reread, Looking for Alaska, whatever the book may be that I absolutely love. I will always go back to that. Something that really makes you feel like you remember it and it feels like home and it's super comforting. I love books like that when I'm in a reading slump because there's no pressure to finish it at a certain time. If you're reading it and you're like, okay, I'm feeling better, I can go on to something else, you don't feel the pressure to finish it because you've already read it. I think that that's very important to have those books in your life that you can just go back to time and time again, that you genuinely love, that make you feel whole in a way, that kind of remind you of a better time, maybe a time when you were feeling really good. I think it's important to have those books around as well. And when it comes to a life slump, I think visiting your favorite place is very important, as well as visiting your favorite book. I think that going out to maybe your favorite bookstore, your favorite coffee shop, your favorite park, whatever it may be, I think that is a really good way to kind of get you out of a life slump, to have a place that you like to go back to that makes you feel a certain type of way. Like there's a bookstore by my house that I used to visit with my mom all the time. I take all of my friends there. I go there on my own. If I'm ever feeling down, I like to kind of go and just like walk around the aisles. Even if I'm not buying any books, I like to add them to like my Goodreads and things like that. And it's just something like visiting there just reminds me of a really, really happy time. As well as I like to just go and visit my parents. My parents' house is like my favorite place. I'll just go and like lay on their couch and watch TV while they're like kind of puttering around the house, like doing their work and stuff. Just visiting a place that it has always been one of your favorites, even if it's really far away, take a day to go and visit that, whatever it may be. I think that that's really helpful for getting out of a life slump. And the last thing I have here is a bit of, it kind of ties into both. I think this helps both a reading slump and a mental health slump, so I'm just going to kind of lump them together, and it's reorganizing your space. If you are an avid reader, chances are you do have a bookshelf. I find when I'm feeling like a slump, it's because I've been looking at the same shelves and the same books over and over again in the same place. I'm actually going to be including it in my vlog for next week. I plan on rearranging my bookshelves this week. I just don't really like the layout. I don't like how things are done. I'm contemplating doing a rainbow shelf, but we'll see if that actually happens. But rearranging your space, organizing your space, you guys have heard me speak about this before, is incredibly important. It is something that I do with every single changing season. And I think that I do have a smaller office, so I don't have a whole lot of space to do a whole lot of things, but I do like rearranging my books. I think that's the first thing that I can go to that really helps boost my mood personally, and also helps boost my reading mood, because I'm seeing my books in a different light, I'm seeing them in a different way, and it's making me excited to read different ones, and as well as it is kind of changing the scenery a little bit and helping my mental health and helping my mood in general. Alright guys, so that is it for today's video. I hope you guys found this helpful. I hope you guys learned a few tips and tricks on how I keep out of reading slumps. I don't often get into reading slumps, so when I do, I have kind of learned throughout the years how I'm able to kind of get myself out of them. Now, like I said in the very, very first point, the most important thing that you can do is not try to force yourself out of a reading slump. If you're not feeling particularly well, or you're not feeling like you want to read, don't force yourself to. Or even with the tips that I have for the mental health portion of this, if you're not feeling like hanging out with somebody, or you're not feeling like going out and doing things, it's okay to just stay home. It really honestly is. Like, maybe take a bubble bath and just like relax and just put everything else out of your mind, play a video game. I like to do that a lot as well. But I hope these tips are helpful, and I hope you guys are having a good week, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!